And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans, with a special 5:30 start time. I felt that with Game 5 of the Caps Lightning series coming up in a few, or being tonight, we would do a slightly later show today. Of course, for some reason, whenever I do this show, it always wants me to sneeze. Apologies. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk for serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. As I pull up some information here. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to say so in our chat room here. Let's see here. There we go. And of course, start talking about the Western Conference real quick. You got the Vegas Golden Knights up 3-1 over the Winnipeg Jets. Vegas finding all the ways to win. Let's see here. And Vegas right now up 3-1 over Winnipeg. Vegas is just getting the job done out there. Winnipeg having difficulty managing the speed of the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights are playing very well, and have obviously the chance to wrap it up tomorrow in Winnipeg at 3 p.m. on NBC. But of course, everyone wants to talk about the Cap series, and I need to pull up Twitter real quick. There were some tweets that I was looking at. We'll do a little NHL news real fast. So, for those who are Chicago Blackhawk fans, Marian Hossa is retiring. And when his contract expires, we'll be taking a position with the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, one of the problems with this is that technically the player is retired, thus meaning that the Chicago Blackhawks should be getting hit with a recapture penalty and a cap hit for the duration of the remainder of his contract. But because they're going to be just putting him on long-term IR or trade it to a team that needs to reach the floor, they're going to circumvent the salary cap to do that. In that regard, I think that needs to be fixed in the CBA. The fact that somebody is able to, we've seen teams do it, like the Flyers were doing it with Chris Pronger. Boston did it with Mark Savard, although Mark Savard's a different situation because he had his career ended by Matt Cook in a game. Chris Pronger was somebody who was near the end of his career, suffered an injury near the end, but because he's over 35, if he had retired, there would have been a recapture penalty, and the full cap hit would still maintain on the salary cap for the Philadelphia Flyers at the time. Same with Pavel Datsyuk, who for the last year of his contract was traded over to the Arizona Coyotes because he decided to retire from the NHL and go over to the KHL instead for this season. Also, a circumvention of the salary cap. This is something that the NHL and the NHLPA need to fix. They need to get rid of this ability to do that because, quite frankly, everyone. I want to use Brooks Orpik as an example because everyone uses Brooks Orpik as the person that they always want to get rid of because he's a waste of cap space, and that's this. And I'm saying this as a Caps fan, all teams need to be subject to this. So if Brooks Orpik went down to injury and he couldn't play next season or he retired, the Capitals should have to take on the full cap hit. Just like how Chicago should take on the full cap hit for Marian Hossa, and how the Flyers should have taken on the full cap hit for Chris Pronger, and like how Detroit should have taken on the full cap hit for Pavel Datsyuk, but they're too busy worrying about circumventing the salary cap, which they need to fix and get rid of that ability to do that. So there's that. And then in the NWHL on Tuesday, the National Women's Hockey League announced that they have acquired and are expanding out to Minnesota with the acquisition of the Minnesota Whitecaps. As people remember, back in February when the NWHL All-Star Game was going on, it was taking place out in St. Paul, Minnesota, and 2 members of the Whitecaps were actually drafted into the All-Star Game. This was, honestly, when we saw the press email stating that there was going to be a press conference in Minnesota, everyone automatically went ahead and said, okay, they're going to be bringing the Minnesota Whitecaps into the NWHL. I think this is great for the league. If you're going to grow, you're going to grow slowly. Plus, the other great thing is that the Minnesota Whitecaps is already an established team. They were founded back in 2004, so this is a team that's already been founded and is now officially a professional team in women's hockey. So for those people who are wondering, oh, what about expansion drafts? What about that? They don't need to do it for this team, because this team, this new team, already has an established team that will be coming into the league, which will actually make things a lot easier on the NWHL for this upcoming season. And the Minnesota Whitecaps will begin playing this upcoming season in the NWHL, so I'm actually intrigued to see what the NWHL will do scheduling wise, and not only that, but also playoffs wise. What will they do with a 5-team league, and how will that impact the playoffs? Will a team have like a first round bye, or will they only have the top 4 teams make it into the playoffs and the 5th place team not make the playoffs? So a lot of interesting dynamics to keep an eye out for as the summer progresses and we find out more from the NWHL about how the now Minnesota Whitecaps 5-league team will be impacting that. So very interesting to see. We'll see how that works out. All right. Any other news? Not really. There's talk that Boston University coach Dave Quinn is going to be going to Boston University coach, I think it's Bob Quinn or Dan Quinn, or let's find out. And shout out to our friends Forever Blue Shirts for this one. David Quinn. All right, man, I'm way off. So David Quinn is going to become the new coach of the New York Rangers. That will most likely be announced heading into sometime this upcoming week. All right, I have the tweet that I wanted up. So let's talk about Caps versus Tampa Bay. Now we will have a Game 6. Last time we were on the air, I did mention that next time we come on here, we will definitely be having a Game 5. I was right. I knew the Caps would not sweep this series. And to the jackasses who took a broom to Caps practice and had the players signing it, I hope you get castrated for that, because that's something you just don't do. And the fact that Caps players willingly signed it, that was just an even more bad omen to the team. And I'm saying this as a hockey player, there are superstitions that you do not break, and you never bring out the broom, and let alone sign the damn thing. So those so-called fans, you're idiots. And I'm not afraid to call you out on it. So, but, looking back at, the first 2 games, the Caps did a really good job of neutralizing the Tampa Bay Lightning in all facets of the game, with the exception of maybe the power play. But when you look at Game 3, the biggest problem that the Capitals had was, in fact, Tampa Bay's power play. A lot of penalty problems the last 2 games for the Washington Capitals, especially for Lars Eller, which is very shocking. And, one can say, speaking of Lars Eller, who has been a very good performer in these playoffs, is that maybe the fact that he has been playing so well on the second line, and then especially with Backstrom back in the lineup now, that maybe Lars Eller was playing a little in over his head, trying to keep himself in that spot, and when you play a little over your head, mistakes are becoming to be made, and as a result of that, Lars Eller would end up taking bad penalties as a result. One wouldn't know. That would be a great question to ask Barry Trotz, but I don't have the press credentials by the Capitals to be able to ask Barry Trotz my questions and get his thoughts on certain things. So, There's that. But I feel that Lars Eller, despite the penalties, has still had a very strong series. Obviously, would not want to see him in the penalty box again because he is much more valuable to the team outside the penalty box than in it. So there's that. And then, of course, let's see here. Yeah, we'll tweet that. And then let's talk about Game 4. So Game 4 was, and it's kind of the same thing. In the last two games, Michael Kempney, who's also been having a very strong playoffs this year, he did not have his best games the last two games. He took stupid penalties in Game 3, one of which got him fined for. And then in Game 4, after the Caps took a 1-0 lead, he threw a really bad pass up the middle of the ice, which got intercepted and resulted in a goal. And you can't do that, especially when you take the lead. You need to be, that type of stuff needs to go up the boards and out. So, big mistake by Kempney. Definitely turned the momentum to the way of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then, the Eller penalty where he got called for holding Tampa Bay's power play, was able to score again. Something that needs to be looked at for the Caps. And the Caps penalty kill, the interesting thing is that when you look at Tampa Bay's power play and you look at Washington's power play, they're essentially the same power play. Stamkos is the Ovechkin of that power play. And if you have that own power play set up as the other team, you should be able to know how to shut it down. And if you aren't able to shut it down, then the problem is with you, and that's something that the Capitals need to fix on the penalty kill. Especially the fact that Tampa Bay has done a great job, especially on this power play, a great job of doing tape-to-tape passes that are super quick. It's on the stick, it's off the stick right away, and they're making Braden Holtby move. So you cannot fault goals on Braden Holtby, especially on the power play, because Tampa Bay is making him move left and right so much with how they're passing that it gets him caught out of position a little bit, or he's just not fast enough to get to the other side to get it. So, Caps need to fix the penalty kill. Talking about, penalty kill, one guy who definitely will be an impact guy on that is Nicholas Backstrom, playing the first game in Game 4. I thought he played very well. Obviously, as he plays more, he knocks more rust off, he'll become a more viable player. I think with Backstrom on the penalty kill, that will help enhance it a bit. I do agree with the sentiment that Barry Trotz said during Game 4, which is, they went like 25 straight killing the penalty, and now they're kind of being, now it's kind of reversed where the penalty kill is not as good. Maybe with the re-addition of Nicholas Backstrom to the penalty kill, that will help turn the ship in the right direction for the Capitals in regards to the penalty kill. And then, so if you look at it, a bad penalty and a bad turnover in your own zone is what costed the Caps in Game 4. Going on the road, Game 5 tonight, obviously, you got to stay out of the box. You got to make sure your passes are great. You got to make sure that you're getting it out of the zone properly and you're not turning over the puck. And one thing that really does irritate me is that when Backstrom came back, he was put on the third line, which I have no issues with when you're easing somebody back into it, especially during the playoffs. But what I don't like is that they took Alex Chiasson out of the lineup to do that. And instead, they left Jacob Vrana in. I don't care what anybody says. Good offensive talent, massive defensive liability. Alex Chiasson, not the most gifted offensively, but he's defensively reliable, and he's really good at doing it in the offensive zone, too. Who would you rather have in the lineup? I'd rather have Alex Chiasson than Jacob Vrana. Well, per Tom Gulitti of the NHL.com, Capitals at morning skate, you have Alex Ovechkin with Evgeny Kuznetsov and Tom Wilson, Chandler Stevenson with Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, Jacob Vrana with Lars Eller and Brett Connolly, Devontae Smith-Pelly with Jay Beagle and Alex Chiasson. On defense, Dmitry Orlov and Matt Niskanen, Michael Kempney with John Carlson, and Brooks Orpik with Christian Hughes with Holtby and Grubauer were the goalies on the ice at the time. Now, Alex Chiasson obviously goes in for Andre Burakovsky, who has struggled the last 2 games, but I don't think it's on Andre Burakovsky. I think it's the fact that he's playing fourth line minutes, and he's not playing with the guys he's accustomed to playing with all the time, which are top 6 guys like Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie. While Chandler Stevenson has earned his right to be on that second line with Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, then one should say that maybe you should be putting Andre Burakovsky on the third line with Lars Eller and Brett Connolly, because at least he'll have people on that line that he can do the things that he needs to do with. Nothing against Jay Beagle, nothing against Devontae Smith-Pelly, but the type of players that they are, they don't match with Andre Burakovsky. And I think Andre Burakovsky is getting the short end of the stick on this one for the Capitals. And it's funny that, Burakovsky has a couple rough games at home, and he's the one that's going to be sitting up in the press box. But let's talk about Jacob Vrana, who you're putting on the power play, and he's skating in a full circle around the ice, and he's giving the puck away on your own freaking power play. To me, that guy's sitting up in the press box and not Andre Burakovsky. I think Burakovsky should be in the lineup tonight and not Jacob Vrana. I like the fourth line of Devontae Smith-Pelly with Jay Beagle and Alex Chiasson. They're a good line. They're one of the hardest working lines the Capitals have. Like I said, not the most offensive line. Very defensively responsible. And they're defensively responsible in the offensive zone, which is a critical thing and a key thing for the Washington Capitals for, especially against a team like Tampa Bay. You want them out there. You want them making like guys like Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov. You want them playing defense rather than being on offense. Because when you do that, you tire them out a lot more. I like the idea of Eller being back on the third line and Backstrom being up on second line. I think the first game back, put Nicholas Backstrom on the third line. Now you move him up to the second line. Back with Stevenson, back with Oshie. And I think what's going to happen with that is that now you have Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Wilson as your first line, your top 3. That line obviously will go up against like the Stamkos line or the Tyler Johnson line. And then now you have the Stevenson, Backstrom, Oshie line that's back together, and now you have that second line threat that we kind of missed, but we never really did because of how good of a job that Lars Eller played for the Washington Capitals in those last few games that Nicholas Backstrom missed. So when you look at it from that perspective, now we have a true second line threat that goes up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that will definitely make an impact as well for the Capitals. And I will say this right now, Brett Connolly. Last year's playoffs, I was not impressed with Connolly. Txht couldn't trust him. Whatever happened between then and now, whatever lessons he was taught between then and now, I'm very, very impressed with Brett Connolly. I think what he's doing now in these playoffs is a lot better than what he was doing in last year's playoffs. Against Pittsburgh and against who they faced in the first round. I don't even remember who they faced in the first round. It doesn't matter who. Oh, Toronto. Yeah. So when they played against Toronto, he wasn't that very good. I don't even think he even played in the Pittsburgh series because Txht couldn't trust him in the Pittsburgh series. Now in this series here in the Eastern Conference Finals, Brett Connolly's got 2 goals. He's performing very well for the Washington Capitals, and I really like what I'm seeing from Brett Connolly in these playoffs. He's been playing overall a lot better game, and he's definitely earning the ice time that he has. So a massive 180 for him from last season to this season, definitely for that. Let's see here. Christian Djoos, that's one where I think his ice time is getting up a bit more than compared to the last 2 series. Definitely Djoos. You don't hear his name said a lot, which sometimes that's a good thing because it means he's doing the right things, compared to some others where if you hear their name, it's because something wrong is happening. Brooks Orpik, I think Brooks Orpik has been one of the best defensemen for the Washington Capitals. Picking him up was always a move that I liked, because you always need to have a defenseman like that. I know a lot of people don't like Brooks Orpik, but you know what? Brooks Orpik is one of those guys. He's the only guy in your team who's won a Stanley Cup. So he knows what it's like to be there. And he also plays the game the way it needs to be played, and that's with some shutdown hockey. And he does his job He's blocking shots. He's throwing hits. He's doing a good job out there. And then you got to talk about Dmitry Orlov and Matt Niskanen. That is a D pair that is so good. And it is our true number one D pairing. John Carlson with Michael Kempny, they're a very good D pair, especially when, Kempny's not in the box or throwing bad passes. But overall, Kempny has had a very good series. John Carlson having a magnificent playoffs. He's making it almost impossible for the Caps to re-sign him now this upcoming summer. So, thanks, John Carlson, for that. But something tells me John will probably stay at Capital. I think he likes it out here, and he wants to stay out here. And that's the thing that's important to him. Let's see here. So, let's see. I want to go back a couple. So, looking at Tuesday. Let's see here. On Tuesday, Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov had power play goals, and then Victor Hedman and Braden Point both had even strength goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So right there, the power play is kicking for them. And then and then on Thursday night, Stamkos had yet another power play goal. Braden Point, Alex Killorn, and Anthony Cirelli all had goals as well, although Cirelli's goal was an empty netter, so when you really look at that one, you can just kind of do the shoulder shrug and just go, okay, whatever. Technically, the Caps lost 3-2 in that one. When you look at that game, actually, technically speaking, the Washington Capitals only really lost 3-2 when you get rid of that empty net. So they played a good game, and then when you take away the power play goal, the Eller penalty, and the Kempny turnover that led into a goal, the Caps win this game 2-1. So it's really that close for both teams. Let's see here. All right, so for tonight, looking at this, Evgeny Kuznetsov leads the Capitals with 10 goals, 11 assists, and 21 points. Whereas for Tampa Bay, it's Nikita Kucherov with 7 goals and 16 points. Victor Hedman leading the team in assists with 10 assists. So definitely this will be a game worth watching. And I'm not going to spend time talking about Vegas, Winnipeg, because quite honestly, I was hoping for a better series. Obviously, Vegas being up 3-1 now makes it not very enjoyable. All right. So, and I'm reading off of NHL.com because they put out really good previews. And who wrote this one? So I give them proper credit. Dan Rosen. Dan Rosen's a very good writer. Pucks in deep. Players and coaches always talk about getting pucks in deep, which means putting it behind the defenseman, allowing the forecheckers to create chaos that leads to turnovers. The Lightning thrive off of this style. They haven't done so consistently in this series. Turnovers have been a problem at times. So that's something that the Capitals have been very good at, creating that chaos, and also forcing Tampa Bay into doing turnovers so they can't do it themselves. I think the Capitals need to get the pucks in deep, continue to create the chaos. Obviously, if they let Tampa Bay do that to them, which is something they strive off of, or thrive off of, it could spell doom for the Capitals. But I think if they hem it into the zone of the Tampa Bay Lightning, it would be better, especially when they get the puck in deep themselves. Lars Eller's disciplined. Lars Eller committed 5 minor penalties in games 3 and 4 combined, giving the Lightning 4 power plays. 1 was a matching minor. They scored on 2 of those. So 2 of the 5 penalties that he's taken have resulted in goals. And that's something that he needs to definitely do, which is stay out of the penalty box. Eller has been good in this series, especially in the absence of Nicholas Backstrom in games 1 through 3. He had 4 points in the first 2 games, including a goal and 2 assists in game 1, but he can't keep parading to the penalty box, which is fully on point. Tampa Bay's discipline. A big issue for the Lightning in game 4 was penalty problems, especially in the first period. They gave Washington 3 power plays in the final 8 minutes and 40 seconds, and then 1 at 7:08 of the second period. The Lightning killed all 4, but the string of penalties in the first limited the ice time for some of their most dangerous offensive players, including forwards Braden Point, JT Miller, and Yanni Gourde, and defenseman Mikhail Sergachev. They all struggled to feel their way back into the game in the second period when the Lightning were outshot 14-6. It's asking a lot of the penalty killers to keep Washington's power play off the board if given that many opportunities again. Which, speaking of that, Washington's power play must step up. The Capitals were 0 for 7 with the extra man in games 3 and 4. Worse yet, the Lightning scored on 3 of their 7 opportunities. Washington needs his power play to step up, which means getting the puck to Alex Ovechkin in the left circle or TJ Oshie in the slot. Honestly, I think what really also needs to happen is that if you're going to be, especially like Evgeny Kuznetsov, you got to make him, because players are always going to cheat over to Ovechkin to make sure he can't shoot the puck. What they need to do is just like, hey, look, Kuznetsov has it, he's looking for the pass, and then he just lets a shot off on goal. Like, no-look shot right on goal. It'll throw them off. It may even go in. But the thing is that that's another thing. They need to do other things on the power play. They need to do minor tweaks. Alex Ovechkin had 3 shots on Washington's first power play in Game 4, none on their next 3. Oshie had 2 shots on goal on the power play in Game 4. There is only 2 shot attempts in the game. Tampa Bay blocked 14 shots on the PK in the past 2 games, including 6 in Game 4. So, Tampa Bay is definitely going to be willing to step up to face the price, or pay the price, and block these shots for Tampa Bay. And then Tampa Bay needs more shots. The Lightning won games 3 and 4 despite getting outshot 76-43, including 60-35 at even strength. Tampa Bay goalie Andrei Vasilevsky made 72 saves. Tampa Bay needs to have more of a shoot first mentality, so that way they can get some shots on goal. But honestly, that's also a tribute to how well the Capitals have been playing defensively against Tampa Bay, limiting those shooting opportunities, and taking time and space away from the Tampa Bay players. So definitely a big benefactor there for the Washington Capitals is their defense and keeping Tampa Bay down on shots. Now, again, get out of the penalty box, you cut down a decent amount of those shots because some of those shots are on the power play. You cut down on that, you're doing good. So let's see here, lineups. So the only real lineup change for the Caps is Chase Sonic in for Burakovsky, and he's going on the 4th line, and Backstrom moving up to the 2nd line with Chandler Stevenson on the wing. Let's see here. And then for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it looks like they're not doing any changes to their lineup, so they'll have Andre Palat with Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Yanni Gourde with Braden Point and Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn with Anthony Cirelli and JT Miller, Chris Kunitz with Cedric Paquette and Ryan Callahan, Victor Hedman with Dan Girardi, Ryan McDonough with Anton Strawman, Braden Coburn with Mikhail Sergachev, with Andrei Vasilevsky in the net. And let's see here. No notes on. Okay. And obviously the big thing is that. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, big thing for the Caps is stay out of the box, continue to limit the Tampa Bay Lightning scoring shots on goal and scoring chances, and get that power play clicking. Draw penalties, don't take them, and if you can draw them and you can finally get some shots on goal, stop being so cute with the puck. You need to, I like the thing that Ted Starkey said, is that when they play on the road, they play a simple game, which is why they have the record that they do. When they play at home, they have to overdo things, and they have to be cute with it. Simplify. Don't overdo it, because when you overdo it, you're just not going to be in for a good thing. So, and I know I'm going to cut the show short because Game 5 is tonight, and I want people to focus on that. But I just want to say, I still believe in this team. This is a team that is achieving success that we did not anticipate to achieve. And let's just continue to have fun with what we're getting. If we continue to have fun with what they're getting, we're going to be all right. But if you start putting that seed of doubt into your mind, then you're not going to have a good time watching the game. And we should be having a good time watching the game. And that's how I feel about it. That's how others feel about it. And that's what we need to do. So I'm happy the Caps are in the Eastern Conference Finals. I did not anticipate them to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, legitimately. And I'm glad that they're doing this. So it will be nice that it'll be nice if they win these next two games, because it is a best of 3 now. And honestly, I like to see them win just the next two. I don't want to see it go to a best of to a game 7. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Experience Hockey Talk, Serious Hockey Talk for serious hockey fans. You can follow the show on Twitter at @TXHT_hockey, Facebook.com at Facebook, or on Facebook at Facebook.com/TXHT hockey. Join our Patreon community at Patreon.com/TXHT_hockey. And of course, follow us here on Twitch at Twitch.tv/TXHT_hockey. And with that, and ladies and gentlemen, until next Saturday, we will see you on the ice.